Man has always had a fascination with the unknown and unseen. Scuba diving allows us to conquer the oceans, to see deep beneath the water. Scuba diving allows us to learn more about the inhabitants of the ocean while observing them in their natural environment, and allows me, as a recreational diver, to visit a world full of wonder and magic. Unfortunately, like most things in life, there are also bad sides to scuba diving. The ugly side that has negative effects on the ocean. I've always been fascinated by the sea and everything it holds. I completed my underwater diving certificate in September last year to enable me to investigate more fully my love for the ocean. Through this, I've been lucky enough to dive with my father here in Fujairah and my older brother Braden in South Africa. Through my exploration of scuba diving and the environmental effects thereof, I hope to make people stop and think about the impacts of this ever-growing popular sport, and to start a conservation of what we can do to protect our oceans and the great inhabitants thereof. I may be only one person, but change starts with one person and has a ripple effect. This is the start of my ripple. The history of breathing underwater goes back to 500 BC, where it was reported that Greek soldiers were able to stay underwater while breathing through hollow reeds. Continuous advancement to technology and the need to be able to breathe underwater while diving deeper saw Benoit Rougereau and Auguste Deneroux invent a compressed air-filled tank with a mouthpiece for breathing that could be tied to a diver in 1865. But it was in 1943 that famous marine explorer Jacques-Yves Cousteau, together with Emile Gagnon, developed the aqualung, which allowed scuba divers to breathe easier underwater. Dumas made a historic 94-meter dive using the aqualung in 1947, and modern-day scuba diving was born. With this advancement in technology, more people have been able to access the great unknown ocean with relative ease, and new occupations have been born. The first environmental impact of scuba diving I would like to discuss in this educational value. Without scuba divers going down and documenting what they see and learn, many of us would never have an insight to this wondrous world. Numerous documentaries and films have been made and released with the help of underwater photographers and divers. The BBC's Maldives, a diving paradise, is absolutely beautiful. Sir David Attenborough is the voice of National Geographic's Desert Sea documentary that tells the story of the Arabian Gulf, while The Living Seas by Greg McGillivray tells the story of world's oceans. Jacques Cousteau, through his oceanography company, released over 20 short films and 35 feature-length films on the wonderful world of our oceans. Probably the most famous being his series entitled Undersea World of Jacques Cousteau. Through these documentaries and films, we learn about the various environments within our oceans, including the fish and corals. Underwater photography has also been used to raise awareness and highlight issues of marine endangerment. Benjamin Wong, a renowned underwater photographer, created a series of photos with diver Amber Barr to highlight the plight of white-tipped reef sharks and sharks in general, who are being hunted for their fins. The money from this series has gone towards the creation of the Malaysian Shark Sanctuary. These photos form part of a series called Shark Shepherds and show Amber holding a shepherd's crook with the sharks. People think that when ships sink or are scuttled, they destroy whatever is below them and release harmful materials into the oceans as well. They are not wrong. When a ship sinks and crashes into a coral reef, it will completely destroy it. Should harmful chemicals or other materials leak into the ocean from the ship, the damage is widespread. There is a far more interesting and exciting effect of a ship sinking, that is the birth of a new coral reef. Over time, the ocean and its many wonderful creatures deposit sediments and microorganisms onto the ship. These stick to the ship and allow the foothold for coral to start growing. Where the new coral grows, the fish come and an entire new reef that supports life is born. These reefs lend themselves to dive sites for recreational divers as well as educational dives, where people can see and learn from the various corals and fish. Just look at the USS Saratoga, found at the Bikini Atoll off the Marshall Islands, or the 5 ships that form the Butler Bay wrecks of St. Croix. It is through diving that these new coral reefs are being documented and cared for. In 1972, Ocean Conservancy was founded. It is an international ocean conservation movement, with one of its main endeavors being the removal of rubbish from the oceans. Although scuba divers tend to remove bits of fishing equipment and rubbish from the oceans and reefs when they are diving, Ocean Conservancy has arranged an annual International Ocean Cleanup Day since 1991. According to the Ocean Conservancy, more than 65 million kgs of rubbish have been removed from the oceans and beaches so far. Dubai Municipality undertook a project to clean up Jebel Ali Marine Sanctuary on the 1st and 2nd of October 2015. Divers from the Filipino Scuba Divers Club, Dubai Municipality, the Emirates Marine Environmental Group, and Kidmat took part in the cleanup and management to rid the ocean of 1.2 tons of rubbish, according to Aisha Al Muhaira, the head of Dubai Municipality Environmental Department. Project Keep Khalifa Port Clean was undertaken on 22nd of November 2016. Scuba divers and other volunteers dived down to a depth of 20 meters and removed rubbish, including fishing lines and hooks, plastic bags and containers, as well as string and ropes. Just as many other areas around the world without scuba diving, the rubbish would not have been able to be removed from the Jebel Marine Sanctuary or the Khalifa Port. Fishing for a hobby or sport can have disastrous effects on marine animals because of ghost fishing. This is basically all the fishing equipment that is lost or dumped in the sea, but it carries on fishing and ends up getting hooked or tangled in marine life. There are many documented cases of sharks being photographed with hooks stuck in them, and even worse, with lines still attached. Some are in their mouths, where they have been bitten down on a fish line, or others are in their parts of their bodies where they have brushed against a reef or something similar and has gotten impaled into them. Divers know that sharks aren't really the big, bad, scary creatures from the Jaws movies, so many help the sharks by removing the hooks if they are able. Christina Zenato, otherwise known as the Shark Whisperer, lives in the Bahamas and has released many documentaries and is an avid environmentalist. She is very well known for removing fishhooks from the mouths of sharks. Cameron Nimmo and Randy Jordan are also famous for removing hooks from sharks by turning them upside down and putting them in a near-trance state. They run a company called Shark Addicts in Florida, who film sharks and provide educational trips. These are just 2 examples of how divers help the marine animals, but there are tons of other examples, like removing plastic that gets caught around the necks of turtles. Commercially, there are many occupations that divers carry out that benefit the environment. In the event of the hull of a boat cracking or leaking, underwater divers can be sent down to undertake repairs while the boat is still at sea, minimizing the damage to the environment should the leak be of hazardous material, and also ultimately saving the boat from sinking. One example of using underwater divers to repair a leak in a hull of a ship is the battleship Texas, who started taking on water on the 9th of June 2012. This posed a great environmental concern because Texas's tanks were filled with oil. Another boat was brought alongside and pumping began to get the oil out of the leaking ship. While this was happening, divers were sent down to locate the source of the leaks, and once they had identified the areas, underwater welders were sent down to repair the leaks. Although this wasn't a quick job, all the leaks were patched and the environment and ship was saved. Now, not all that divers do help the environment. Actually, divers can be very detrimental to the oceans. Inexperienced divers can harm the coral reefs by not having control of their buoyancy and so not being able to keep horizontal or needing to kick too often. This often leads to divers kicking the reefs. Coral is a living organism, and when it is kicked, it breaks, sometimes never being able to repair itself, and it ends up dying. Diving has also given access to many more people to the coral reefs, where reef pillaging is a big problem. This is when divers go down and break off the coral to take back with them or to sell. Let's face it, coral looks pretty, and there was a big craze to have coral in your sea-themed bathroom or holiday house. A lot of this coral has been taken directly from the reefs, which leads to the reefs dying. As coral is a living thing, it is very delicate. When divers go down and touch it, they often are very rough and end up damaging the delicate protection membrane, which also leads to the coral dying. These factors have led to many reefs, especially around Hawaii, introducing carrying capacity, which is a cap on the number of divers allowed on the reef each day. This allows authorities to limit the amount of damage caused by the divers to the reef. Fish feeding on the reefs is becoming an ever-increasing popular activity offered by operators around the globe to attract tourism. According to the research conducted by the Reef Resilience Program of the Nature Conservancy Global Ocean Team, this activity has led to the decline of number of fish found on the reefs, with a high number of visitors including Kaneohe Bay in Hawaii. It has also shown to change the fish's natural behavior, like finding food for themselves. Changes to their natural migration patterns because they now don't have to move away when their natural source of food decreases, as well as how often they reproduce. This is a clear example of how scuba diving can change the environment for the worse. There's a lot said about spearfishing under scuba. Some countries have strict regulations guiding spearfishing under scuba, like Australia and the United States of America, while others, like South Africa, have laws in place that prohibit this and only allow spearfishing under snorkeling or freediving. Spearfishing under scuba has directly led to the decline of certain reef fishes like parrotfish and endangered humphead wrasse, to only name two. A study carried out by Stephen Linfield, Jennifer McLowan, and Ewan Harvey over a period of 20 years of Guam, where spearfishing under scuba is allowed in the North Mariana Islands, where you are not allowed to spearfish under scuba. Not only confirmed that there were vastly more fish around the Northern Mariana Islands, but also that the size of fish in deeper waters around the island was far bigger than in Guam, which also supports the fact that deep water should be left as marine shelters for fish to grow. People have different views on this, but it's my belief that this study, along with others, conclusively shows that spearfishing under scuba is bad for the environment and should be outlawed worldwide. It is all very well giving these details, but what can you do with this information? Well, I was very lucky to be given the opportunity to interview Robert Bennett, who is the manager of large tank exhibits and marine biologist at Atlantis Department, and he had this to say about helping the environment.
If you do dive, then it is vital for you to be an eco diver, where you look but don't touch, where you remove any rubbish you see in the ocean when you're diving, and that you report any significant amount of rubbish or people destroying the reefs to the relevant authorities. In general, look after the ocean. Don't leave any rubbish on the beach because it will end up in the ocean. If you walk past a piece of rubbish, pick it up and become a volunteer by helping with beach and ocean cleanup.
I've just scratched the surface of this very interesting topic, but I hope I have given you some food for thought. The ocean is a sanctuary. We cannot afford to mess it up any more so. I, as a scuba diver, have a responsibility to be gentle on the environment and to spread the word to other people about caring for our oceans. Not only to fellow scuba divers, but to everyone. I hope this video has done just that, and that my ripple turns into a ripple effect as you spread the word on saving our oceans.